Hello, and welcome to That's English.
Yes, hello. Today, Ashley and I have been asked to recommend a book to our viewers.
That's right, we have to choose one interesting book. What kind of books do you like, Annabelle?
Oh, I like lots of different genres, Ashley. For example, thrillers, sci-fi, horror.
I like books which have a good plot, a good story.
Today's episode is all about books and writing.
Yes, it takes place at a creative writing class.
Before we watch, here's our question. What does Bradley think of Ellen's story?
Welcome back to the creative writing class. And for those of you who are new to this class, my name is Kirsten McDermott. This term, we'll be looking at fictional storytelling, including the novel, the short story, and scripts for theatre and film. But first, I'm interested to hear what you've been doing in the holidays. Veronica, how is your romantic novel going?
It's not very romantic. I've got to the scene which describes the lovers meeting on the ferry, but I haven't finished it yet.
Why not? The opening was wonderful.
I didn't like the male character. He's just another typical man who's in love with the heroine, but is already married.
What do you mean, typical?
It's depressing. It's supposed to be funny, like Bridget Jones's Diary, but it's a tragedy. All the men that she meets let her down. In the end, she gets depressed and becomes frightened of relationships.
OK, well, we're going to look at character development later. How about you, Bradley? You're writing a sci-fi novel which is set in the 22nd century.
I can't decide what genre I'm writing. It's more fantasy or magical realism than sci-fi.
Well, it depends who you're writing it for.
I don't know if my story's for teenagers or adults that like technology.
OK, don't worry, we're going to discuss genre next week. Ellen, have you finished the short story that you started last term?
Yes, I've finished a first draft.
Well done. What's it about?
Would you like to read a bit to the class?
Penelope was not surprised when she heard the news. This was the moment she was waiting for. She decided to phone the 3 people who were at the scene of her husband's murder. As he approached, he let out a terrifying roar. Calmly, she took the knife and stabbed him once in his huge stomach.
Oh, my goodness.
Then she made a surprising discovery that explained everything. The man whose fingerprints were on the knife was a doctor who specialised in heart disease.
Wow, how strange.
That was amazing.
And very scary.
I was terrified. It was really frightening. I love the way you keep the suspense going.
It's thrilling.
What about you, Bradley?
Yeah. The plot is interesting and clever, but the main character wasn't convincing for me.
You must be joking.
No way.
I just didn't believe he was credible.
I think Ellen's story is brilliant.
But what does Bradley think of Ellen's story?
What about you, Bradley?
Yeah. The plot is interesting and clever, but the main character wasn't convincing for me.
Bradley thinks the plot is interesting and clever, but he doesn't like the main character.
In the video, we saw different ways of identifying people and things.
To do this, we use relative clauses with the words who, whose, which and that.
I've got to the scene which describes the lovers meeting on the ferry.
We use which to refer to things. For example, this is a book which will interest both men and women.
We use who to refer to people. Watch.
And for those of you who are new to this class, my name is Kirsten McDermott.
So Anita is the person who films us on the show.
We use that to talk about both people and things.
Then she made a surprising discovery that explained everything.
All the men that she meets let her down.
Or, the last book that I read was a thriller.
And we use whose when we want to define possession. Watch.
The man whose fingerprints were on the knife was a doctor who specialised in heart disease.
Remember, we say the man whose fingerprints were on the knife, not the man his fingerprints were on the knife.
When the relative clause has already got a subject, we can omit the relative pronoun, who, that, or which.
This was the moment she was waiting for.
I could say, the book I've just read was really scary. Or, the book that I've just read was really scary.
In the video, we also heard people expressing their emotions. Watch.
I was terrified.
We use ed at the end of the adjective to describe how something makes someone feel. For example, he was excited by the idea.
But to describe our feelings about something, we use the ing ending. Watch.
It was really frightening.
I watched a Johnny Depp film last night. I was terrified. The film was terrifying.
I watched a TV drama. It was boring. I was bored.
Now let's watch the second part of the episode.
Here's our question. Is Ellen's story autobiographical?
I felt really down in class yesterday when you criticised me.
I'm sorry.
I don't know what I can do to make my story more believable.
The parts where you described Penelope's feelings were brilliant, but the main character is too passive.
I don't care if Veronica and the others think my story is good. I'm interested in your opinion.
You should describe the main character's feelings in more detail. You need a stronger description of his emotions when he sees the dead body of his wife.
Maybe. When he realises who she is for the first time, he gets angry.
Yes, that would be more frightening.
Good heavens, you're right. That's amazing.
Calmly walked away from the house where they first met so many years ago.
What a great ending!
That's amazing.
Fantastic.
Thank you for your honest criticism, Bradley. It helped me to rewrite the story.
I was really scared. That moment when she heard the noise in the kitchen was terrifying.
It's strange. You seem like a nice person who wouldn't hurt a fly, but you've written a very scary murder story.
Where did you get the idea from?
It's a true story.
What? No.
You're kidding. I don't believe it.
Yes, it's autobiographical.
No way. You mean you did the murder?
Yes. I was the murderer.
Are you serious?
You must be joking.
Of course I'm joking. You must be very naive. Do you know any magazines that might publish my story?
Why not send it to Pearson Thring? They publish a series of horror short stories. Here's their catalogue.
I've got a list of literary agents that could help you.
Why don't you enter a writing competition?
Or sell it as an e-book?
What a great idea.
When you get the Booker Prize, Ellen, don't forget to give us all a signed copy.
OK, Bradley, how is the magical realism in your story going?
It's terrible. It's easier to plagiarize Harry Potter.
OK, Veronica, how is the great romantic novel developing?
It's amazing. I found a man who's the perfect hero for my story.
Veronica, is this fiction or non-fiction?
Excellent. A happy ending.
Yes, I'm really pleased. So, did you get the answer to our question?
Is Ellen's story autobiographical?
I was the murderer.
Are you serious?
You must be joking.
Of course I'm joking. You must be very naive.
No, her story isn't autobiographical. It's fiction.
Thank goodness for that.
In the video, we heard people identifying time using when. Watch.
That moment when she heard the noise in the kitchen was terrifying.
I felt really down in class yesterday when you criticised me.
And we heard people identifying place using where.
Do you know any magazines that might publish my story?
The parts where you described Penelope's feelings were brilliant.
When we use when and where, they are followed by a subject and a verb. For example, I felt sad when I went back to Liverpool last year.
Why?
Because the place where I grew up has changed a lot.
Ooh, so, Annabelle, have you decided on a book yet?
I think this one. The Lighthouse by Alison Moore. It's intriguing and frightening.
Ooh, sounds good. Now, we asked some people in the street, do you own a Kindle? And do you think books will disappear?
I'm a technophobe. I don't like technology.
We've read both. However, I hope greatly that paper books will not disappear because there's nothing like holding the book in your hand while you're reading. I much prefer that method over reading off of a screen.
Yes, I have got a Kindle, and I think that all books are eventually going to move electronic.
I haven't as yet. I do like to hold a book, but my son's the gadget, the techie one in the house.
I don't own a Kindle. I've never read a whole book on a Kindle or a smartphone or anything.
I don't think paper books will disappear. However, I think that more and more people would entertain the idea of using iPads and Kindle and that sort of thing. A lot of people still like to have a book in their hand.
I see a lot of people reading the Kindles nowadays. I think it's easier for people to download them rather than go to a bookstore or go to a library.
I still think there's a future for paper. I don't think everyone will have e-readers or Kindles in the future.
So many people said that paper books won't disappear, but people seem to like reading books on their Kindles.
So have you chosen a book?
Wow, I like this one. Bring Up the Bodies by Hilary Mantel. It won the Booker Prize.
The Booker Prize is a prize for the best original novel written in English.
What about you, Anita?
I'm going to choose that one too.
OK, let's recommend this one.
Well, that's all from today's programme. See you next time.
Yes, goodbye and happy reading.